Hi, dream chasers and risk takers. Welcome to the Unshackled podcast. I'm your host, Hassan.
And I'm your host, Ahmed.
Join us as we share our triumphs, failures, and everything in between, helping you navigate the rocky terrain of the tech and Nigerian business landscape.
Welcome to the Unshackled.
Hello,
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Unshackled.
Unshackled.
Well, I am definitely glad to be here recording again. It's been so long, man.
Honestly, like,
Ah,
wow, how long? Almost 3 years
yeah,
now.
it feels quite weird sitting down with cameras again because it's been so long. We keep
Yeah,
fixing dates. We'll come back, we'll come back, we'll come back. But you're a busy guy, so we
you two,
couldn't.
you're a busy guy. But honestly, I'm so excited. I'm excited because I remember the feeling I had when we first started this podcast,
Yeah.
and it was a feeling of, you know, reflection in a way. Like I feel like I've kind of missed, like something that every week you'll sit down,
Mhm.
reflect, and really just have a conversation about it because life moves so fast, as an entrepreneur, you barely have time to really sit down and reflect. And I think this is what podcast
Yes,
does to
yes,
me.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually very glad as well because it allows us to kind of assemble our thoughts together. Because as much
Yeah.
as this is a very casual conversation, you still have to kind of structure it in your
Yeah,
head. So
exactly.
it makes you remember all those things that normally you would not just,
Yeah,
remember or like recollect or take inventory of. So
definitely.
yeah,
How was your week so far? Like,
well, my week well shortage.
oh my god, that was on my mind. Well, no, not
Well,
really
not fuel
full
shortage,
shortage,
but
but like
fuel
the
prices.
prices is
Like
crazy.
honestly, like 617 naira a liter. Like it's cost me over 50K to have a full tank.
Same. Like I went to, so there's this filling station in my area, like in Guzapi,
Yeah,
that so I went to fill the tank basically. So I usually just tell them just fill the tank,
yeah.
and it's just so normal. So this lady recognized me, so I was like, put 15K. Because I just did it. I was just so tired. I filled up my tank this week, and then it just finished again. It's like this is
Let me
how
tell you
this
this.
is how my car drinks
It
for like
gulps.
it gulps so well. So like I was just so tired of it. I was like, at least let me just top up something. I went to this lady. She was like, is it? Should we fill up the tank, sir? I was like, no, 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 it's 15. She just looked at me like, hey, even you, sir.
But one trick that I use is once I fill up my tank,
Mm,
I just keep topping up once I've used up to quarter tank. You wouldn't feel as much money going
yeah,
out
true. That makes sense. Like,
of your account, even
yeah,
if it means every 3 days.
reading.
So, but it's kind of easier on the mind. You know,
Mm.
it's the same money you're spending, but psychologically it will make you feel like you're spending less.
But honestly, the difference is so much. Like 15K used to fill up my tank comfortably, like to the, you understand?
To
Now
the
it's like
brim.
40, 46, 47,000. So it's just crazy. And it has had a knock on effect on so many things.
So many.
Business, we've had to start doing 4 days a week instead of 5 days a week just to reduce the burden because the cost of transport has gone up.
Yeah.
um, and also we just had to make a lot of compromises. Some teams within the Raven Amaka, they've completely gone, remote. And then obviously some people, their salaries had to be readjusted because it doesn't make sense for you, to be spending all that you're earning in just
And just that
transport, and that's basically what it has really come to. Someone was paying maybe 500 naira to get, from to get public transport to the office. Now they're paying like 2,000 per
yeah.
day. What's like positives out of all of this? Because for me, I'm naturally an optimistic person, and I know it's very, very difficult at the moment, and
Mm.
I'm just trying to look at it from
Both things. I get what you mean, right?
Mm.
But honestly speaking, no matter how positive you are, right now you kind of cannot see beyond the negatives as much. Uprising is pure,
Like
right?
it had to happen.
That's why there isn't an uprising. I
Mm.
think the citizens of the country, understand why it's needed. If not, imagine the chaos and the protests that would happen, right?
Yeah.
People understand, and I think the government has to use this benefit of doubt given to them by the citizens to actually bring up
Absorb, like,
some very
shock
good
absorbers. Yeah.
policies. Try to bring in things that the citizens would feel that the government is working for them. Because honestly speaking, like, we are complaining and we are somewhat comfortable, right? Imagine those that even before all this
So
inflation were struggling. People that statistically are living on under $1 a day, right? That is, I can't even begin to comprehend. If you notice
yeah.
now, there are less cars on the street, there are more beggars on the road. Um, a lot of friends or acquaintances that would normally not reach out to you for help are reaching out for
If
help.
you were the president, what would you do?
To be honest, I don't know,
Like, to
right?
help the whole, like, if you know you had to make this big decision, like you had to, what would you do to help people?
So let
Is
me
it
tell you
are you
something.
going to give them the palliatives, or
No,
give
no.
them,
So, like,
or
let me
what
tell you
is it like?
something. There is
Yeah.
no quick fix with this.
Mhm.
And us
Mhm.
doing this, that's why it's such a big decision,
Mm.
because there is no simple quick fix. And I get why the government would want to do a palliative scheme. I personally feel they would still do it, which a
Oh
lot
my
of
god,
people
I was so shocked. Like, I
cannot
was going to the
afford.
airport and I couldn't believe something that I used to pay 3,500 to
Yes.
take Uber to the airport. Now I took like 10,000. I was so
Yes,
shocked.
it's ridiculous. Like,
I was like, what? Wait, what? What's
exactly.
going on?
So this
Yeah,
this thing,
you're right.
I think our nation is currently going
A
through
transition.
a big transition, and it depends on all the policies that the government will do. Like, I know, like, we can sit down here and speculate on what would be the right thing to do, but honestly, I feel I do trust in this government. I think they do have um, the capacity to be able to do the right things if they want to. So I just hope that they do the right
The
thing.
right
So
thing.
that's just what I'm hoping. I just feel
Yeah.
like they should be smart enough to know what to do.
Yeah,
So, like,
not to go into too much,
yeah.
politics,
Yeah, and all that.
all of that, not to go into the nitty gritty. But so in terms of businesses, just bringing it back to businesses, how can and looking back at some of the challenges that we've faced, when we're starting, individual businesses, whether it's Steamless or even Amaka, what do you think, like, for someone starting their business now in this environment, what would you like advise them? Because I just keep thinking, for us, like, when you compare the times that we started, it was a lot easier, even though there were certain difficulties within that, within that we had to overcome, even during the period, there was COVID-19 and whatnot. But there's certain peculiarities
Yeah.
with this, and I feel like people are a lot more resistant to taking risks
Yeah.
because the future is a lot more uncertain.
Uncertain,
So, but how would you navigate it if you were starting
If
now?
I was
What
starting.
would you do?
What I'll say, right, is what we always say when we're, catching up, when we're in that spot, this spot, hanging out with, friends. I knew you were going to bring that reference. Like, so that reference, you would only understand it if you've watched the In-Betweeners. So, like, yeah. Tragic. Anyway, back to your question, right? What I'll just say, right, is a lot of opportunities lie where there is a lot of problems, right? As much as it looks gloomy and it's much difficult to start, believe me, there are a lot more opportunities now than they've been ever before in the country.
Yeah.
Because a whole new spectrum of problem has come to light. And it
For you
needs
to solve.
solving.
Yeah.
So,
And the bigger the problem,
next
the more
billionaires
Mhm.
are going to be made right now. And there will be those that can see beyond the problems and come up with a workable solution. Fact is, people will not spend money on useless things. So if you end up bringing a service or product that people don't need,
Yeah.
of course, it is wahala now. But
Yeah.
if you bring a market fit, which means you're solving a problem, like just at the top of my head, like just imagine that you bring in some transportation system that doesn't involve fuel that can work in Nigeria. Imagine how it will pick
No,
up.
but obviously that's more like I'm talking about like as a small entrepreneur without funding, without like all the
Yeah.
in that kind of environment. You understand? That's
Yes.
like obviously if you're able to solve the bigger the problem that you're able to
The
solve, the bigger the
bigger the
reward,
reward, isn't
essentially,
it?
right?
Yes.
But like as a small person trying to start up, you probably are thinking of okay, you need to get a niche.
Mm,
Maybe you're doing it based on how would you
go about
navigate
navigate.
it for. I mean, when I think about it, for me, it's more of like you said, there's needs and there's wants and there's
Mm-hmm.
knowing who what your product does.
Is, yeah.
Is it a need or is it a nice
Oh,
to have?
nice to have.
Most now mostly people are not looking for nice to haves
Uh,
because simply you
Life is too
know
expensive.
life is too expensive. I just rather spend that money in food.
Or just look at it in my bank
You
account and even
understand?
spend it. Like
Yeah.
honestly, now there are things that even though I can afford it, but because it's
You
not a
think
need,
twice.
I will keep my money
And now even keeping the money is a problem because
because the
look at
naira is
how
depreciating.
yeah, dollar is like
Yeah.
800 and something. Last time I checked, 823.
Honestly, like look, the problem is so much, is so enormous. And just like I said, I'll repeat it, the next set of billionaires are going to be made right now within these things.
What problems are you solving at
Um,
this juncture?
Honestly speaking, I am thinking about so many things like we
Are you
always do.
thinking or like what is it?
Like
How are
thinking.
you pivoting or readjusting to this moment in terms of your business?
So like us, like what we're really doing, you see, like just like you mentioned in terms of rethinking work overall. You went back to 4 days, us we went back to 2 days. You
Wow.
understand? So like we're going 70, we've went gone 70% remote. We had to cut down our workforce because we simply cannot afford it anymore because we need to increase other people. So what we did is we had to trim down the team. Unfortunately, it's not something that one should be doing when there are difficulties. But the business is
Realities.
starving, right? So
Mm.
and then just trying to even refine our product so that it is even more essential to our users.
Mhm.
Because right now, like I said, even if you have a paying customer, that customer will stop paying you to pay for fuel or something else
Mhm.
if you are not a need, if you're something that he can do without, right?
Mhm.
So that's what we're doing regarding our product. And of course, every day, we have an R&D unit, right? So every day we're always researching to see how we can take advantage of new opportunities to incorporate either within our existing product or maybe if it's a new thing that we have to launch, we look at the viability. Is this something that interests us as a company? Does it align with our core values, etc, etc? And if it does it and we still like it, that's when we start reaching out to partners to see if we can partner with someone else
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. But I know a lot of people are
Interesting.
kind of gingering. Like I really like the ginger of the Gen Z's now because
They usually have negative press
no, yes, they have, but
for
no,
like
but
in
let me tell
general when
you,
it comes to work.
it's because
Mm.
the millennials and the boomers complain a lot. They do not embrace change.
Mm.
If
That's the truth.
you can get like I used to criticize Gen Zs as well, but I think
Well, I'm a Gen Z.
I well, I'm not a Gen Z,
Yeah,
so
obviously.
obviously get out of here.
Come on, big like.
Like they are not adaptable to our conventional norm. Their own norm is different from our own norm. So if you choose to embrace that, you see there's a lot of creativity within that. And
Yeah,
I'm really liking the way a lot of Gen Zs are thinking or rethinking about solutions to problems.
that's a very interesting take on Gen Zs because
Yeah.
like me being a Gen Z, I've often like criticized Gen Zs a lot because even when it comes to, working and having being like part of having a team.
Yeah.
I mean, my team in Raven Amaka, right? We we have a lot. Like my experience, let's say with Gen Zs,
Yeah.
isn't like the the greatest. Even though, like you said, they have their own positives, and there's a certain way because they've been brought up in an era of technology, in an era of social media, right? In an era of so they've been exposed to so much, via social media. They
Internet, all
and
that. Yeah.
internet. So obviously the whole culture, even the way you work, like thinking about work. Oh, when I grew up, even though I'm a Gen Z, but like I just about entered the Gen Z, generation. Like I'm like one of the first set of Gen Z. So, but like for me, my idea of working hard, but then it's more like, okay, let's work smart, not hard. Let's do remote. We don't need to do like, so there's so many different culture change,
Yeah.
one way or the other. Obviously these Gen Zs are going to be the majority of the workforce in a few years to come, and you have to know, as a manager,
Yeah.
as someone that works with Gen Zs,
How to get the best
how
out
to
of
get the
them.
best out of
Yeah.
them. For starting, like, what were like one of the biggest challenges that you actually faced? For like, let's remove this. Like
Yeah.
when you were actually starting,
Yeah,
what was the
starting thinking
biggest?
about all
Like, if we
those
had
things.
to pin down like the
The
biggest,
biggest
your biggest
challenge
puzzle that you
to
had, that
solve,
you
isn't
faced,
it?
and
Like
what's like the advice to?
me, you're asking me for advice. Me too, I'm looking for advice. I'm looking for
Uh,
advice. So like but maybe reflecting, if I have to like just think back and maybe take myself 6, 8 years back to just think who was I at that point and what were those things that I found challenging. I would say um, the main thing that comes to mind is fear.
hmm,
Um, I was bold and I was not so very afraid, but one of the things, if I were to go back, is I would fail faster. Like I would not be afraid of, I would try even more. So, and the reason why I'm able to have a business today is I just put that fear aside and kind of just jump into it, right? And I failed forward, you know. There are a lot of other challenges that we can talk about, team composition, getting the right product, what is it called? Funding, all those things. Those are daily challenges that one faces in the business that is expected, even like Dangote Group, they wanted to do refinery, they had to go out to find funding for it, right?
hmm.
So, which means funding is still a challenge. But so it will always be, all those will always be. But I would say the main thing is that I would say is that fear. Remove that fear, like feel like Superman and jump off that building, and just hope that there's
Fearless.
yes, fearless,
Doing
like
advertisement. Fearless.
no, not fearless. The drink, oh, I beg you. Just like basically just start something.
Yeah.
Like the thing is, don't procrastinate. Procrastination is really really terrible, and the best time to start to do something is yesterday, and the second best time is right now. So just go into it. I would say it's fear, and when I removed that fear, I think I was able to accomplish a whole lot
Mm.
more. And thinking back, if to say I was even much more fearless than I was, maybe I would have achieved even more than I wanted to.
So being
Maybe like
being fearless.
yeah,
Mm.
being fearless. Don't care about the consequences. Sometimes it will come back to bite you. I'll warn you. Like sometimes. So like, what of you? What would you say were your that thing, that big thing that was the barrier and you had to overcome? And if you have to reflect, you'd say you you
That's
know
the
you
thing.
can point your finger to that.
Honestly, I think it has to be the transition between, like, when I was just a freelancer, I was used to my independence and just
Yeah.
doing things just the way I want and working directly with the client.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, as the business continues to grow, you have to hire people, and then you have to
Put
trust them.
structures.
You have to put structures, trust them to do the things
Yeah.
that you once did. And it was so difficult, like having that transition from, just a freelancer to
Mm-hmm.
someone that does, that manages a team. It started
Wow.
obviously with a team of one, two,
Yeah.
three.
Before you were just managing yourself.
Yeah, I was just managing myself, but then being able to really manage is very difficult. I still find it challenging sometimes.
Yeah.
Dealing with people in general is the hardest part of
And they're
business.
different, and people with different characters. They come in all shapes,
In all
sizes,
shapes.
and
And you
forms.
think you've seen it all?
You will never see it all.
You think you
Like,
see it, so you see someone like,
I remember a lot of our conversations, that has to do with like how, especially when you're working with people, how
yeah,
what this one did, how
honestly,
this one costed you projects, how this thing. I can remember
honestly,
all
it's
of
a
those
very
things.
difficult.
And
And before I used to like micromanage,
mm,
like this is exactly how I want it. You're in business, right? You have to deal with people all the way around. So it's one of the most important skills.
yeah,
I feel like,
yeah,
you understand,
definitely.
your investors or your business partners, your employees, they're all people.
The
The
clients,
clients,
the government
government,
people, all those
like
yeah,
it's all people.
aligning is all
It's
people
all
along the way.
people. So it's a skill that it's a non-negotiable. Being
Mm,
able, sometimes you just feel like, like you don't want to deal, like you have to work with people you don't even like a lot
yeah,
of the times,
mostly.
I remember this time, that's what I wanted to remember earlier, but I remember this time when we were still back in Kano. We had this time, she was a content creator.
Yeah,
This girl, she was a very very small, you understand, girl, not like by size, not by age, right?
yeah.
I think she was around maybe 25, 6 at the time. This was like 4 years ago
Hmm.
or three. So, like she had like an argument with a senior member of the company.
Hmm.
I won't say his name, but you know
Yeah,
him. But he's very, very big,
yeah,
like huge. And then what this girl did, just to come back to what we were saying earlier about the complexities of people and how you think you've seen everything, but you haven't really seen, because every
yeah.
time someone will talk with her, you know what this girl did? She, like, they were having like a misunderstanding,
We're rising.
and she felt as if that this guy was not listening to her properly, and he didn't want to listen. He was just like, this is what I'm telling you, just don't,
Just
you
don't even.
understand.
I don't want to hear
I don't want to hear
anything. This is the
anything.
end
this
of
is
it,
this is the
right?
end of it. You know what she did? She locked the door. The size difference is like she's here, he's there.
Yeah,
She locked that door. That was like one of the offices.
yeah.
She locked the office door. She put the keys in her bra. She was like, "You're not going anywhere. You have to listen to me." So honestly, like,
Wow.
sometimes you're dealing with so many, and I'm not saying everyone is like that. Most people are very
Yeah.
good people. They're sensible. You understand,
Mm-hmm.
But when that happened, I think that was my like that was my first experience seeing how just radical,
Yes.
someone,
A
a
situation can
situation.
change from
Yeah, and
0 to 100 in three
honestly, at the
seconds.
time, I didn't even know how to react. He was just knocking the door, Mr. Moshi. She had locked me in the
Jesus.
office.
Oh my God.
No, honestly, like I was so lost because in my head, it's just you shouldn't be able to do that, especially in a working environment. But that was still early days, and at the time, I think we had up to 10 staff,
Mhm.
and it was a real. So ever since that happened, I don't think anything over surprise, like nothing
Yeah,
shocks me, like
exactly.
things, incidents, things have happened, but nothing really.
Really drastic like this one. No, no hiding of keys in areas that kids shouldn't go into. Anyway, that's a humorous story, and
Yeah,
that's one for the for the time. That's a legend that you always, that you always tell your
Yeah.
grandkids, baby,
And
when you
honestly,
started the
well,
business.
obviously, I fired her after that incident. So I think 2 years later or something, she
Yeah,
sent a message to the person she had the incident with,
yeah,
saying that, "Oh, I forgive you."
weird.
So that's like that,
All right,
and he was telling me this like at the time. So I was just like, "Oh, I've even
forgetting that
forgotten
happened.
that." How do
Really,
you brush
really.
up on your people skills though? Because for me, I just felt naturally like I'm good with. But then when it comes to, especially when you're young and most of the people you deal with are much older than you, which was my case, I started very, very early, right? When I was a teenager. So everyone that I was dealing with was way older than me. And being able to like manage and
Mm-hmm.
tell them what to do was very, very difficult. So you
Difficult,
have to
yeah.
just,
I think the best thing that you can do
mm,
maybe in our case, right? You see, personally, I learn every day. Of course, I listen to speeches, I read some books sometimes, but I think having Benga as our chief operating officer helps, which he brings that maturity that is needed because
mm,
Benga is like 10 years older than I am,
mm,
and he always is the oldest person in the
in the
company
company, yeah, that
because
makes sense.
it's a company of young people. Even
Hmm.
though he's young, he's still by far the oldest. So
Oh my
I,
God, you did it better.
so like no, but like that's a fact. So I think
Yeah.
that helped. So
Mm.
he brought a lot of experiences because obviously he's worked before. He's had experiences that we haven't had, that I personally didn't have.
That's a good
I
one.
Yes, and I think he helped mitigate a lot of the situation. So I learned fast through him,
Mm.
and any thing like we kind of always solve it together,
I
and
actually
I
learned,
think that really helped me in how to handle
yeah,
people.
I actually learned
Having
a
a
lot from
practical person
person.
there that
Yeah.
has more experience than me.
I actually learned a lot from you. A
Oh
lot when
yeah,
it comes to you and Benga.
yeah,
Especially like when we were all in Kano, and I really learned
true.
so much, and I felt like that helped me, you know, avoid a lot of the mistakes I would have
You
done
would have done,
if I,
yes.
you understand,
If
it just fast tracks my whole like journey, because you were when we met, you've already been doing business for like past 3 4 years, so you
Yes,
already have like a 4 year head start.
head start,
So when
true.
I came, it's like a lot of the things, no, don't do,
Don't do
because
that. Yeah, I can
it's better
remember
to do
that
this.
time
Even
exactly.
when it comes to like hiring the first employee, right?
Yes, yes,
We
true.
did the interview together,
Yeah,
and
exactly. No, that was
honestly,
fun, and
yeah, that
that's one
helped.
thing that I would advise.
Mm,
Let me just pause you there a bit. That I'll advise anybody starting a business, right? Is like a close mentor. So that time it was a mentorship. We're together, and you learned a lot,
mm,
right? I Benga was my co-founder, but I used him as a mentor as well. He used me as a mentor as well,
mm-hmm.
and he learned so much from me. I learned so much from him.
Yeah.
So please, if you're starting a business, or
Mm,
you're new in business, or you're even old in business, please find that mentor that you can learn from.
it's
And
very
and and
important.
yes, as you say, it's a two-way street. Let that person be able to learn something from
Yeah.
you again, as well. That is really, really important.
Yeah.
And I think that really helped us. Like we learned from each other, and we're still learning from
Yeah.
ourselves every single day. We have outside mentors, but mentors within ourselves, the mentorship within ourselves that happen, I think is really, really
It's,
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, so I think number one is is the fear,
Yeah.
right? Just to summarize, because time is up, of course.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week. So it's to have remove that fear, right?
Yes.
Just jump off the plane and
Then learn to fly.
and then learn how to fly.
Yes.
Um, and you won't regret it. What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is you fail.
You feel,
So
but you
what?
can feel forward.
So when you fail, let's say you fail something, you've learned from that experience,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And you learn whether you like it or not. That's also another very important aspect of failure.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you fail, you know that, um, like for example, when I started, this is just a quick one.
Yeah.
When I was like do like helping a a business, a small DIY shop in Manchester, to help them put their stuff on eBay, right? So it was a very repetitive work, right? So that experience, it wasn't that that experience just told me that this is not what I want to
What
do
I
for the
want to
rest of
do
my life.
exactly.
So just for that, I didn't
You
waste my time.
yes.
You understand? I've
Mm.
learned that
That you
that's
do
not what I
that is
want.
not your calling.
If I hadn't known that, I wouldn't know. You understand?
I
So
agree.
I feel like, fail forward, fail fast, fail a lot,
Feel a lot.
and obviously learn from your mistakes.
If
That's
you
the whole
don't
point
learn,
of failure.
then what's the point, right?
Number two, um, the transition between freelance, essentially like being independent, to
And having a
setting up a
team.
team. You have to get yourself the right people.
Yeah.
You have to have people skills in
Yes.
order to be able to navigate the whole business world, whether it's your
Yes.
clients, investors, employees, because you're going to come across so many different people. You understand?
Of different
So build
characters.
your skills. And how do you build your skills? You build your skills mostly through experience, through doing things, but also, you know, reading, speaking, going to
Go to communities, join
communities,
communities so that you can find like minds.
so you can find like minds and you can relate. Most importantly, find mentors, someone that you look up to, that they're good at doing those
Yes,
things.
and then let me add one thing about mentors. Don't go and find a mentor that is too far ahead of you.
Yeah.
If you find a mentor that is too far ahead of you, that you can't even access them properly and you can't really learn properly because the gap is simply too much, I feel that becomes counterproductive because you end up not really learning anything. So find a mentor that you can relate with. Anybody can be your mentor. The person doesn't have to have all the experience in this world.
And for me,
you just need to have the right experience that you want to learn.
And for me, my biggest tip is I have mentors for different things.
Yes.
I don't just have one mentor for, you actually have to have done the thing. That's my criteria for mentorship. So it's not just one of those motivational speakers on Instagram. You can do it. Do it. Like, that doesn't work for me, right? Okay, you're telling me, okay, what have you done? What was your results? So for me, that action speaks much louder than words or whatever you'll tell me. So you actually have done it, have gone through that process. That's number one. Number two is I don't have mentors for everything. Like for business, I have mentors that I'll go to help me with business. But then when it comes to maybe my personal life, I know that they're not I won't even go to them because they're not. But then I know people that are very good with, relationships with, and then I know people who are very religious, right? They're my mentors in that, for spiritual. You understand? I go to them for any question. So don't narrow your mind, narrow your mentor to just one and look at everything.
Yes.
No one is perfect.
Mentorship is a two-way street.
And it's a two-way street. You always have to add value.
Yes, add value. If not, that person will not want to
actually
really give you time.
As crazy as it sounds, I get a lot of people saying, I want you to mentor me out. But it's not like if you had come directly with a value proposition, I'm not saying, I don't have to gain anything from you, but for it to be worth my time, you understand?
Yeah.
At least I have to there has to be some sort of structure.
Yeah, and some value interchange. This is
Yeah. So I think
maybe one of these episodes we need to discuss extensively on mentorship because it has different layers.
Honestly,
I think it would be right to invite a guest that understands that really well so that we learn as well.
Yeah.
And see how we can apply it to our daily business.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone.
So see you next week, and it's so glad to be back.
I'm honestly so happy, that we're back after so long, after 3 years of finishing our first season. What you should expect, obviously, we should be releasing every week. We're going to also have guests that will be coming, that will be learning from, and stay. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the socials. Thread? Are we on Thread?
Yeah, follow us on all the socials at Unshackled.
And then obviously you can visit our website. This is going to be on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. So thank you so much. And yeah, it's been good.
Bye bye. Okay.
Ouch.
All right. Stop.